Arai Guma by Marc Yamaguchi. Chapter 10, Ray, Part 5. The altercation with the yard guard gave the family of raccoons the perfect chance to evacuate the tree. Nobody looked back, so nobody understood what led to Chester's demise. The politician couldn't figure out who'd done it either, because he had closed the sliding door behind the yard guard at first. Startled by the cries of a slaughter, he pulled the door open again to find his backyard littered with 3 raccoon corpses and a lifeless Chester. With the door still open, the kitchen light was reflected in the eyes of the 3 sentries looking back at him. The politician grabbed the push brush from the corner of his deck and swung it wildly at the raccoons to scare them off, which sent 2 of them running. The last raccoon tried to leave, but succumbed to his wounds as he failed to pull himself over the fence. He ended up slouched over in a corner of the yard as dark, thick liquid oozed from his body. After getting over the disappointment of missing Ray's turn, Ray's father planted a big bear hug on Ray while Severn was busy instructing the other advisors to move their battalions into attack formation. For the moment, father and son could enjoy their embrace. As it happened, Ray's father's sentries left with Seth, which meant his battalion's launch was delayed until Seth and those sentries returned. Seth's recon was so ill-timed that Severn was livid with the remaining inner guard. In order to launch the campaign, Severn had to remake his battle plan with the remaining 2 advisors and 3 sentries, so that their companies of pledges formed 2 new wrecking crews. Their mission was made simpler and more brutal: bludgeon to death every moving raccoon and corral any escapees into the center of town. Ray's battalion would then come up the middle, capitalize on the ensuing panic, and kettle them. Ray's father knew Severn's tirade wasn't good for morale. None of the rank and file had seen such anger coming from Severn. He quietly spoke to Ray to have him gather up their pledges at once, but allow him to lead the 3rd wave. Ray happily complied because this restored his father's pride and took the pressure off of Ray to command the pledges and their fathers. Ray had never been part of a mission before, and this was about to get ugly. Ray enthusiastically participated in preparation exercises, thumping his chest in unison with his battalion, lying in wait for Severn's call. When Ray's father explained Seth's battalion would represent the 4th and final wave, Ray suddenly remembered Seth had disappeared shortly after his sister had disappeared. Had he thumped his chest too hard? Or was the pain he was now experiencing the anguish of hiding the truth from his father? One after another, the pledges' fathers came to congratulate Ray and his father on their accomplishment and well wishes for the fight ahead. Ray's father reminded them that after the war, they would teach them to open the green wheelies and increase their personal fortunes. This optimism should be used to envision their victory. Their battalion could barely wait for news of Seth's return. Ray's father looked upon Ray with profound admiration. "Just look at him now, our family's first turner," he thought to himself. "Ray's the inspiration for the Severnites' triumph." He couldn't be prouder. He and his son were on the right side of history. "Father?" Ray's voice was barely audible. Ray's father interrupted him. "Because you were first from the womb, your mother and I had imagined wonderful days ahead of you. But could we have predicted this? No!" Getting carried away in the moment, he now acted like a juvenile gang member looking for a piece of the action. "Between us, how'd you do it?" After a long pause, he was done teasing his son and spoke again. "Come on, son, I'm kidding. Really. Severn promised all his advisors and sentries they'd be trained on the green wheelie at the start of the occupation." Severn's plan was to disband the inner guard and reward each member with an administrative branch to keep stock of the Walkies' trade in castaways. Besides making them happy with instant wealth and status, Severn could count on their loyalty because they would be married to the nascent economy. "Father?" "Rachel's the one." Ray had finally mustered up the courage to confess. "You've missed her again. Tonight." This dumbfounded Ray's father, who had been so consumed in tactical planning and keeping the troops' spirits high, that his daughter's welfare was not foremost in his mind, nor could one blame him for failing to notice Rachel's development as the family's true champion. "Severn has rigged the pledge," Ray continued. "No one can open the green wheelie alone. It depends on the help of another. Rachel showed me." This was stunning news. Almost as stunning as the realization Severn had returned, with a large number of pledges in tow. Everyone had heard what Ray said, so Severn calmly extricated himself from the clingy pledges who still idolized him and took to the stage once more. "Ray, my boy, you've surprised me again. But this time it's your candor. Would your partner like to come forward and teach us the turn?" Severn was creepy when he was being facetious. "I don't think my pledges have seen their girlfriends in a very long time. And they might take a fancy to Miss Rachel." Meanwhile, the Severnites on the eastern and western flanks had been making progress towards the city center. They sustained heavy losses in the east as they ran into an unusually high number of coyotes in the ravines they crossed. The Severnites from the west had nearly reached the city center, but both battalions knew that the reinforcements would finish off any remaining raccoons who thought they had cheated death. The commotion they had caused lit up the town. Walkies everywhere woke from their sleep by the horrible screeching in gardens, berms, bushes, trees, verandas, sheds, garages, alleyways, and under cars on local streets. Never had there been this much carnage in one night since the burning down of the city around the time of its founding. The information phone lines were tied up and the internet portal crashed. Animal Services was taken completely unaware. But the extraordinary number of complaints was not as big a factor as the death of Chester, which had profoundly angered the city councilor, who made his constituency assistant call his allies on council to repay him a favor. "Rose!" Ray's father looked like someone who had seen a ghost. "Rose?" Severn cackled. "Is that your final word before you die? How quaint." Severn wasn't the least bit threatened by Ray's father, who took on a fearsome defensive stance. Ray and his father could not dispute the math of being outnumbered. Their epitaph was now being written by Severn. On cue, Rose emerged to join her husband and son. "Funny. My husband claimed this place was a fortress. What a shame. No one to greet a lady and open the front door." Severn brought himself within inches of the matriarch, simultaneously circling and scrutinizing her as he spoke. "Not bad. Good bones. Someone had to give Ray the brains." As Severn shot a look at Ray's father to demoralize him, Rose retorted, "You're right about the brains. I'm here for the boy." As she did this, she winked at her husband to reassure him. The pledges looked like audience members in a peanut gallery, and well-positioned to watch surprise after surprise unfold. Rose had entered stage right. Rachel, stage left. Rachel was the second female to come before the pledges in a very long time, and now Severn was outflanked by Rachel and Rose. Severn never flinched under pressure, but he was in unfamiliar territory, and Severn appeared weary. Backing up so that he returned to the side of the stage where he and his pledges had come from, Rachel and Rose mirrored his pivot, with their backs towards their boys and their eyes squarely on the peanut gallery. Before he gave the order to kill, Severn preached to his choir once more. "Ha! These females have backed their insipid males into a corner. Family passions. Females do little more than provide us offspring. You may think you are nature's makers. Homemakers, maybe. But I will deliver you to your maker. To Severn's surprise, there was barely a peep from his pledges and or their fathers. It was too much to bear for this group of average to below average intellect. They were like deer caught in headlights, and there was an awkward silence of blank stares and puzzled faces. Where did these other raccoons come from? Will the master destroy them all by himself? Does he mean to kill a mother who stood up for her boy? Punish the family of a Turner? Who's going to take out the big guy advising the master? Wait, did Ray get the turn on account of his father? He ain't a hero after all. Ray's accomplice is pretty. Is she single? There were now murmurings. The room was falling into disarray. Some pledges had taken a real liking to the general, Ray's father, because he had said their sacrifice would bring honor and relief to their families. Others in their battalion just found a change in command refreshing. His orders didn't come with all that flowery language either. Severn sensed he would not be able to turn back the tide unless he took drastic action. Of the 4 raccoons who now challenged his grip on power, Rose was the easiest target. There was a collective gasp upon seeing Rose lying at the feet of their master, who showed the unmistakable crimson of murder on his face. Before Ray's father could retaliate, Ray and 2 more fathers and sons began to rip into Severn. Ray's father then took up a defensive position and was the wall that thwarted loyal Severnites from saving Severn. This allowed Ray to take out his mark, but no one knew Severn had been slain due to the torrent of dust swallowing up the stage area. A massive fight had broken out with 2/3 of the pledges and their fathers believing their master still needed saving, and the other third sympathetic to the general, who exuded tangible leadership qualities and old-fashioned family values. Oh, the sound, the fury! Because 30 raccoons were locked in combat, even Ray's father got tossed from the fray. When he got back up, he was elated to see that his children had draped their mother over their shoulders so she could walk on her hind legs. Rose had sustained severe trauma to her front right arm, an open fracture. Luckily, she had lifted her paw just in time to block Severn's all-or-nothing bite to her neck. After Severn's demise, Ray ran through the thick dust to reach Rachel, who was struggling to get under their mother and move her out of harm's way. As he helped Rachel lift their mother, Ray looked for the way out, but saw his father looking back at them. And they heard him bellow, "Go! I've got this! Go! I love you all!"